Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live. Glad you could join us. Obviously, as usual, we're waiting for the Baron because he likes to play around and do
I'm
other
working
things
here.
off the screen.
I'm working here.
So he will be joining us soon. And hello, Jasper. Let me know if you can hear us all right. So if we have to make any adjustments, we can. Getting thumbs ups. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
It is. It's always good. I need to get back to my other screen here. There we go. All right, the Baron's almost here. You get a hand. Apparently, that's it. That's all you get. Are you done yet?
I'm primping.
Well, quit primping. Man, you're worse than anybody I know.
Ta-da!
Hi, Amber.
The Baron is in the house. Welcome, welcome everybody to yet another Baron and Cindy night. I am the Baron. My lovely co-host,
It's Cindy Knight.
Cindy Knight. To her right, and we'll introduce more of him later, but we got Bill Konkoleski of MUFON. We'll talk much more about that very shortly.
The Baron is very excited.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. I was so excited when he said, "Yeah, I'll be on your show." Hell yeah! So that was very exciting. Just because I just
Okay, I don't
love
like you
UFOs.
standing already.
Yeah, I'm messing with her today because normally I'm sitting, but today I felt very anxious.
All right. Well, yeah, and
So I'm
This.
standing now. So lots of arm movements. It's going to drive her insane, but yeah, that's what else is new. So yeah, welcome to the show, everybody. Make sure you're sharing us out. Make sure you're letting everybody know that we are on. We are on live right now. So before we get to Bill, I did want to talk a little bit about what we did this past week. Excuse me, goodness gracious. We did our first full-length, pre-recorded Baron and Cindy Night show for our YouTube channel.
with our guest host, William from Twisted Critters.
From Twisted Critters. He did a fantastic job. I popped in for about a minute in the very beginning. Then outside of that, I was just behind the camera producing, directing, screwing around, all that good stuff.
Great. Thank you, Amber, for sharing.
So if you guys have not seen that yet, be sure to go to our Screamcraft studio. Maybe she'll type it in the comments at YouTube. And you can check out that pre-recorded version of the Baron and Cindy Night show. Very different than what we do live because we got intermissions. We had really cool commercials that we put in there, some advertisement stuff that we did. It was pretty cool. So we'll be doing more of that as time goes on as well with special guests on that format as well. What else have we been doing? Anything that we need to talk about or?
I don't. Well, we have so many things going on that it's hard to keep track
You
of
lost
what
track.
we're doing.
Okay.
Right. Well, and you're over here talking to me when you wanted me to type something. So
So I will
that
not talk to you at this point. I will in a little bit when you're done typing. But let's bring on
I gotta grab the
our
mic.
new good friend, Bill Konkoleski of the Michigan Mutual UFO Network. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thanks so
you're
much for
here.
having me on.
Glad you're here. So just right off the bat, let's start a little bit about yourself. Throw them out there. Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm the state director of the Michigan chapter of MUFON. MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, is the world's largest civilian UFO research organization. We've been around for since 1969. I have not been around since 1969, but MUFON has. We got over 5,000 members in over 40 countries. And I joined, I've been state director since 2004.
Holy
so
cow.
20 years now.
Wow.
So that's a lot, yeah.
Yep.
And I was a member, I've been a member since 93.
Okay.
I live just north of Detroit in Clawson. And when me and some friends back in 1989, we were in my buddy's Chevette, and we were parked in front of another friend's house. And this blue ball of light it was February. It was dark, and this blue ball of light, at the height of about 2 telephone poles, arced slowly over the car we were in. We all three saw it.
Right.
And then a white ball of light came and zigzagged all over the sky, just ping-ponged everywhere, and then that disappeared. And then a red ball of light appeared in the middle of the sky, grew to about the size of a full moon, which is quite big,
Wow.
and then shrank and disappeared.
Wow.
And we were looking at each other like, what the heck? Or what the hell, I can say that.
Yeah, you can
Yeah, you
say
can.
it. We're rated R.
And so then one of my friends says, well, maybe we should tell the police. And I'm like, well, we were a bunch of high school seniors. I'm like,
Oh boy, yeah.
we're going to tell the police?
That's going to go over well.
Right. And then so my other friend says, yeah, maybe we should tell Selfridge Air National Guard Base, which is quite close. I'm like, well, so wait a second. So you're not going to tell the police, but you're going to tell the military? and so we didn't know who to tell. And when I was in high school, a friend told me about the Center for UFO Studies. She was from Chicago. And so she goes, you should come out to Chicago, visit, and we can go to that place. And we did. And when I went there, Dr. Mark Rodiger was sitting at a table, and he said, why didn't you tell your state MUFON chapter? And I'm like, MUFON, what's that?
Right.
So this is 93.
Okay.
I go to MUFON, and I tell them my story. And I was really impressed of how they handled what I had to report. And so I said, well, I've got a few other things. And so I began to share other things that have happened to me in my
Sure.
life that were unusual, that were UFO related. And I was really impressed, so I just
You're
stuck
pretty much
around.
hooked at that point.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me, when you saw that first burst of light and the strange lights in the sky, what'd you say, like 89?
Yeah,
No drones.
right.
There was no drones to say, oh, it's a drone. Like now, everybody says it's a drone. It's a drone. It's a weather balloon. You didn't have that back then. So,
Starlink satellite.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Sky lantern, Chinese lantern.
Yeah, there's always so many things that people use to debunk it. And sure, yeah, you need to try to debunk them because there's a
Yeah.
lot of crap out there too. But so that sparks your interest. That pushes you in the direction for really the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah. As I've seen with so many other people that are in this, once you get in, you're in it for life.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. I was telling you right before we came on air that I am a MUFON member. I'm just a peon down there. I don't really do much just because we're so busy, but I think in time I want to get more involved. She can vouch for it. I'm an alien nut. I've got around here all my little aliens and UFO books, and that's all I watch on TV for the most part is the stuff on YouTube on different sightings and people's experiences and stuff like that. So, all right, so you get involved with MUFON. How does one become a state director?
Well, there's a lot of different sort of routes. It's a political position, and so it could be that you have a close relationship with the international organization, which is currently based out of Cincinnati, or it's possible within the state you just kind of move up through the ranks.
Okay.
And so when I became state director, our current state director was moving to Arizona, and he sort of handpicked me. And
Nice.
at the time he did, I thought at one point I might do the job, but it happened much earlier than I thought it would.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you guys, as always, make sure you fire in questions for Bill. I don't have all the questions here. We love to keep this line open for you guys. Throw in some of your experiences, ask him some questions.
If he lets me ask them.
She knows she's rude enough that she knows she can pop in at any time and say, "Shut up, I got a
Right.
question."
Well, I'm going to say hello to Gustafsson
Okay.
and Ben Strongwolf and Jen that have popped in.
Okay.
That's all I got right now.
That's all you got right now?
That's all I got right
Okay.
now.
Well, it's still early in the show. We still got a lot of people that are getting off work, eating dinner. Just one of those things. All right, so you got involved in MUFON. Now, Michigan, are we a hotbed of UFO activity? I don't know, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody hears about the stuff in Arizona, New Mexico, and all these other places. What are some of the high-profile stuff that you can tell us about different sightings in Michigan?
Sure. So when it comes to MUFON, we have ranked sightings, like which states have the most sightings. California, Texas, Florida, always up there. And Michigan, surprisingly, it goes toe-to-toe with some of these bigger states.
Really? Wow.
And so we do have a high number of sighting reports. We tend to take in about 200 plus a year, any given year, just in Michigan alone.
Okay.
And these aren't things that we cherry pick off the internet. These are things where people come to us and tell us their stories.
Okay.
And then we go in and investigate them. And really, we can identify about 90% of what comes in.
That was
And
my
we-
next question.
And
Say
we covered some of the big
Yep.
ones there too.
Yep.
People also,
Jen would like to know any sightings in Kansas, so I don't know if you have connections around to.
well, there is the Delphos, Kansas case, and I definitely want to get back to the Michigan ones.
Yes.
But there was a UFO that landed, this was a few decades back, and left a ring on a family's property
Oh,
that
wow.
they said was radioactive, and that was a big one that's
In
pretty
Kansas.
well known. Mhm.
There you go, Jen.
There you go, Jen.
Okay.
So go ahead and continue on the Michigan sightings.
So the chronologically, since in the modern era of UFOs, which is 1947, the current as it's considered, because 1947 had the big Kenneth Arnold sighting in Washington, as well as Roswell.
Roswell.
And
Everybody knows Roswell.
so in 1953, it was November, it was just after the end of the Korean War, and up in the Upper Peninsula at Kinross Air Force Base, they were actively monitoring during the war to make sure that there wouldn't be any terrorist activity that would upset the U.S. shipping lanes, particularly the Sioux Locks.
Right.
So it was November of 53. They're looking at their radar and they see a big object over the Sioux Locks. They don't know what it is, but it's very clearly solid and very large.
Wow.
So what they did was they scrambled an F-89 Scorpion jet to investigate it. And as the jet flew out towards the object flew out over Lake Superior at a speed of about 500 miles an hour. Not the fastest thing ever in
Right.
1953, but faster than anything should have been there.
Sure.
And the jet, they watched it, and they lost radio contact with the jet, and they watched the jet's return and this object's return move closer and closer on the radar till they intersected and both disappeared.
Oh, wow.
And then never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again.
The pilots, the jet, they never found it.
Wow. That's crazy.
And so, all this time, after so many years, you would have expected them to find the wreckage.
Yeah, something.
But they have not. There was no evidence of it.
Right. Now, we just had an incident, an event that happened, what was it, this past summer, and there were several sightings around the country that jets were activated to go up and investigate. But here in Michigan, and again, I don't recall, you could probably clarify on it, if it was Lake Michigan or Lake Superior, where the jets went up and they actually shot down an object.
Yeah, it was over Lake Huron.
Was it Lake
specifically, yeah.
Huron? Okay, so
Yeah.
I was way off. Well, not way off. Michigan, Huron, Superior. So, what can you tell us about that? What was it? A balloon? Was it a Chinese spy thing, or was it alien?
So, of course, this is right on the heels of them taking down that actual Chinese spy balloon, which
Yes.
they identified as it. And then suddenly balloons were popping up everywhere.
Right.
And then this particular balloon in question first appeared, I believe it was over Montana.
Okay.
And they watched it move slowly across the country, flew over all of Wisconsin, flew over Lake Michigan, flew across Michigan, and then when I got to Huron is when they shot it down.
Okay.
And a lot of people say, was it possibly extraterrestrial? Well, like, well, if aliens have a ship that is so slow that it takes them days, literally, it took days to get to that point,
Okay.
then they're probably not coming from very far.
Right.
And so, yeah, a description of the balloon, if we want to call it that, and I think that's what it was,
Okay.
had some sort of dangling things
Okay.
off of it, some sort of fringe around it, and when it went down, I don't know what happened to it.
I was saying,
but
did they ever find any wreckage? Did they pull anything up that they?
I hear that they did not, but then I don't know what to
Their
believe.
chances are they're not going to say whether they did or not.
And if it was dangerous, if it was somehow a threat, why did they let it cross
Go that
3
long.
states?
Yeah,
before
yeah.
they took it down, and they alerted people to it.
Right.
That's the crazy thing about that event is that it was all over the news.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking
yeah.
we probably have this all the time happening.
Right.
And now they're suddenly talking about it.
Talking about it.
And then they just dropped the subject. It just disappeared, and nobody really talked about it.
Right.
There was a recent balloon event, but it's just I don't know why they worked everybody up and then just forgot about it.
So we're not going to call that Lake Huron incident a UFO incident.
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay.
Probably not.
Very good.
So what is your criteria? Like, what makes it a UFO to you when you're investigating something?
When you look for signs, I guess, of the impossible. So if somebody says they see a light streaking across the sky quite quickly, maybe it's something interesting, maybe not. But when they say it takes a 90-degree turn, okay, so then it's got your attention.
Right.
If they say it looks like it looked like a typical aircraft, except it made 0 sound and it was flying incredibly low. Just little things like that don't make perfect sense. And oftentimes it's a collection of things. Like, okay, this sounds normal, this sounds a little bit off, this sounds normal, these 2 things sound a little bit off. And what we do is we can either identify it or believe we've identified it, or we stop at the water's edge and say unidentified.
Okay.
We'd like to tell you what this is, but airplanes don't act like this.
Right.
Or, weather patterns don't do things like this.
Right.
What it is, we don't know, but as far as we could tell, it's unidentified.
Now, how much of the drone, everybody freaking has a drone these days. How much of that is like almost bogging you guys down with investigations where it's a drone? Is it like really prevalent, or is it not really that much of an issue?
Okay, so drones have been the culprits of some sightings that we've been able to identify or believe we've been able to identify. But I believe it was 2013, we had a record number of sightings, over 400 in the state. It was 412 sightings. And the great majority of them were Chinese lanterns. And so that gave us a headache that year. It was a fad.
Yeah.
People were into it. Everybody was
yeah.
doing it.
Yep.
And they were very easy to take a picture of or video of. And then it was overtaken quite recently by Starlink satellites.
Right.
Elon Musk's grand plan to put internet everywhere. And
Yep.
when you see these things launch, they launch in a chain, and it looks really
Yeah.
like a fleet of
They're
flying
cool.
saucers.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple times.
So Ben Strongwolf would like to know, he says, as a fan of watching Skinwalker Ranch, is there any part of Michigan that has a higher sighting of strange UAPs, and does something in the land cause it?
Okay, so what I like to say about this, and I'm certainly not alone, is that you can really take any area, any geographic area, and put any arbitrary line border around it and call it a hot spot.
Okay.
So people in Michigan see UFOs all over the state all the time.
Right.
And whenever you say, hey, show me the last 100 sightings, it's always a population map. Wherever there's more people see things.
Makes sense.
And the sightings we get 1 to 2 a week all year round. It's persistent and it's all over. And it's very easy to take an area and say, this is a hot spot. Look at all the sightings that have happened here.
Right.
Let's combine that with some ghost sightings, or somebody saw a Bigfoot.
Right.
And then, pretty soon you have like the Lansing Triangle.
Right.
And
Everybody's got to have a triangle.
people talk about the Great Lakes Triangle, which I've heard as a triangle within Lake Michigan, a triangle actually within Lake Erie, and a triangle around the entirety of Michigan and all the lakes. And people all say, this is the Great Lakes Triangle.
Oh, okay.
And so whenever somebody brings it up, you say, okay, where are you defining this parameter?
Sure.
I would say at a place like Skinwalker Ranch, it's basically a big petri dish. It's just a dedicated playground where they can just study the phenomena.
Right.
But if you have like the phenomena going on in the subdivision around here, all the neighborhoods, you would have to knock on every door and hear people's stories.
Yeah.
You'll get plenty of stories.
Sure.
And then you could say, well, this is an area that can go toe to toe with that.
Right.
So I don't know that it has anything to do with anything within the earth. Mm-hmm. I just think it's everywhere.
Right.
It's everywhere.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Bigfoot. Bigfoot fan here.
There we go.
Okay.
So you opened another
But,
can of worms.
well, we're not specifically going to talk about Bigfoot. That's for another show. But I have a theory that I've been thinking about for a long time. Bigfoot, all these different other cryptids that are so elusive. People see them, then they're gone. Are these cryptids possibly extraterrestrials? You know? I mean, I think that for
No,
me...
I get you. I'm saying, like I understand. And,
Yeah.
And there's certainly evidence for that.
That's what I was thinking.
There's been a lot of Bigfoot sightings around UFOs, and people even claiming that to see Bigfoots on UFOs or coming off of UFOs. And MUFON is very sort of dedicated to this channel of flying saucers.
Right.
So you don't get a lot of MUFON looking into Bigfoot.
Right.
And I remember back in the day before Zoom, where we would have these meetings nowadays, but being in a MUFON state director's conference call, and the international director, at the time, saying that, hey, I know that we sometimes get Bigfoot stuff. Please leave that to the Bigfoot investigators. We'll
Right.
investigate the UFO stuff. Well, let's treat them as separate. And I remember in the call very specifically, somebody says, well, what if somebody sees Bigfoot in the same area as a UFO? Okay, so the Bigfoot people will take care of that, he says, and we'll investigate the UFO stuff. And then somebody says, well, what if somebody sees Bigfoot and a UFO at the same time?
Right.
And he's like, well, we ignore the Bigfoot and we go after the UFO. And then somebody else says, well, what if you, and it was really funny. He's like, what if you see Bigfoot coming off of a UFO?
Right.
Oh, see, that's a good one there.
And then he says, well, we do the UFO stuff and the Bigfoot people do the Bigfoot. and then so I broke it at that point because I was laughing so hard. I said, so let me get this straight. It's okay that we take an entity report coming off of a UFO,
Right.
but it better not have long hair.
Better not be Bigfoot.
It better not have
Absolutely
long
not.
hair, otherwise
Right.
we don't want it.
Well, we will leave Bigfoot for another show because we will be doing a Bigfoot cryptid type show at some later date. So we will stay to the topic of the flying saucers, the UFOs, the UAP. I'm not a big fan of
and the
government-
Baron's flying hand.
Yeah, the government decided, okay, we're not going to call things UFOs because for whatever reason they don't like it, so they changed the name to UAPs. You got any thoughts about that? Any
Sure. A couple thoughts. No, first, interestingly, they changed the meaning of UAP to, first of all, it meant unidentified aerial phenomena.
Right.
Then they changed the A in it to mean anomalous. So
Oh.
now it's unidentified anomalous
So they changed
phenomena.
it again.
And a couple things, again, my thoughts on it. One is it's technically a better overall phrase for what's going on. I will give it to them that it's, instead of flying object, it's not always an object. It could just be a light pattern. It could be
Sure.
some other phenomena.
Okay.
So it's a phenomena, so the name makes better sense. And in fact, if you see a UFO, that's actually a subcategory of UAP.
Okay.
So I get it. But really how I think that the phrase is being used is to say, if you don't use the term that we've selected for this,
Right.
you don't get to sit at the adults table. You're a kook.
That's,
Anybody that's holding on to this UFO name, you're...
we're not going to take you seriously, and like
Yep.
you said, you don't get to sit at the big boy table. Which again, kind of just it just kind of irks me. She knows I get irked at a lot of stupid stuff. That one kind of irked me just because it was like, the U.S. government has been kind of opening up more with UFO, UAP evidence. They put out the Tic Tac, the Go Fast videos. They're opening up to it more than I think they ever have. as far as saying, yeah, there's some things going on out there that we don't know what it is. So, I don't know where I was going with that, if it was a question or just a statement, but
To me, if I could sort of jump in with,
Yeah.
with a quick opinion on that, is I think that UFO evidence is coming out at a rate, at a volume that the government can't sort of keep under wraps any
Right.
longer. Before there was social media and the way that different ways that people can connect nowadays and share what they've seen,
Right.
even videos and pictures that are out there, at some point it's going to become so obvious that somebody's going to say, hey, wait a second, government, what do you know about this?
right.
We know it's real, but how come you haven't told us about it?
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a slow drip disclosure now.
Yeah.
They're releasing just a little bit of what they know,
enough.
and a
Just
little bit, and a little bit,
little
so that
tidbits.
in several years, when we do reach that tipping point, people will say, hey, government, how come you haven't told us? And they'll be like, we've been telling you about this for years.
All along, you just weren't listening.
Yep.
And, I think, like many of us that do follow this whole phenomena, I think at some point it's going to be out there. It's going to be like, yep, here they are, here it is, whatever.
And here's my further evidence of that. Just if anybody's sort of on the edge of whether or not they would believe a conspiracy theory like that. So ask yourself, how come the UFO videos that they've shown are out over the ocean?
Yeah.
Out over the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Out over the Atlantic Ocean, not over Detroit.
Right.
Where they very carefully selected these videos that got leaked.
Yeah.
Just to test how people would react to it without freaking out.
And do you think, because, thinking the way the government thinks, I believe, they just don't think everybody could handle the truth. Do you think that way? Do you think if there was like this clear-cut UFO just kind of lands on the Capitol lawn and boom, there it is for everybody, do you think the U.S. population can handle that? Or would they just totally lose it, start looting and doing crazy things and end of the world? How do you think that reaction would be?
I don't think it takes that many bad actors to ruin everything. And
Right.
so I think there would be enough people to really create real havoc.
Right.
And we do have a test run. We did have a drill of this back in 1938 with Orson Welles'
Right.
version of H.G. Wells'
Yeah.
War of the Worlds on the radio.
Yeah.
You listen to it now, and it's hokey, and it's obviously not real, and you would think that people back then would have taken it as such.
Right.
But a lot of people
They
freaked
freaked out. Yeah.
But now people freak out 21st century level.
Oh, geez, yeah, yeah. Well, just the conspiracies we've had in the last few weeks. We've had first the AT&T went down. People lost their minds because they didn't have internet and phone service. The following week we had what was the next one? It was
Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram went down. Oh my God, people were like, oh, say they're getting ready for this, like, preparing us for, the end of the world, basically. We've got this eclipse coming that's going to change everything. And then we just had we had a power outage down here in Lansing. I think it was yesterday or the day before, where Border Water and Light had a glitch and most of Lansing lost power. So 3 weeks in a row we have all these power outages. So now you got all the conspiracy theorists thinking, especially with the eclipse coming in April or May, whenever that is, that big eclipse, that they're kind of preparing us for, we're going to lose everything, all communication, internet, phones, power. So kind of testing the waters to see how people react. Me personally, I think they are glitches, but hell, you never know. So again, you guys, if you're just joining us, we got Bill Konkoleski, Michigan Director of MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. If you guys got any questions, fire them in here. Cindy's just waiting patiently here for questions. She's just sitting, watching, looking. Look at how sad she looks.
Well, I'm annoyed with your hands.
Hey, you can't even see them. Look at, they're not moving in there.
Just get there. You
Oh,
go.
there it is. It looks like I'm smacking you. Oh, I can
Yeah.
see why you're annoyed. Okay, I see why she's giving me the stink eye
Well,
all the time.
it's not. It's like He's very handsy. Have you noticed? It's like he's not even Italian. I do,
So I guess this will be the last time she allows me to stand up
Yes.
during the show.
absolutely.
So we tried it. I guess it's a big failure for her. I guess I'm pretty comfortable because I can move around. I just feel more loose. Loose.
Well, I'm gonna make you sit down in a minute.
Nah, I don't want to sit down. All right, so you brought a couple of your project books here. Let's talk about your books.
And now I can say hi, Mark.
Yeah, say your highs, and then he'll get into the books.
He's the only new one. That
Okay.
he just made
All
it.
right, fire away.
Okay, so my very first memory in life goes back much before that sighting that I had with my friends. My very first memory in life is laying in a crib, 2 years old, at the house I grew up in. Again, my first memory, and it's of a little gray guy coming into my room,
Oh,
looking
crap.
down over the crib at me. I screamed for my parents. My mother told me to go back to sleep. I wasn't asleep.
Right.
And then after a few moments, the thing walked out of my room. And I had another experience, 4 years old, middle of the afternoon. 3 little gray guys came in, and I was paralyzed, and they pulled me out of body, and they wanted to see how I could function in that
Right.
environment when I
Now,
was...
did you feel like you're up in a ship, or were you too young to even realize
I was,
what you
I was still in the house
Okay, you were still in the
at
house.
2 and at 4, but at
Okay.
age 7, the event was I was laying in my bed, and this black circle. I'm just jumping right in the deep end with this. I hope
Oh,
you don't mind.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Here I am talking scientific bubble. You know, now like here's some crazy stuff that happened to me when I was young, and still happens. So a big black circle opened up in the ceiling over my bed, and this metal hose sort of thing, that's supposed to use a technical term, drops out of the ceiling and starts whipping around really quickly, shooting off energy.
That'd be terrifying.
And I felt myself really being energized by it. And then I felt myself being drawn towards it. And then I find myself in what the best term I could use for it is a mud room aboard a craft. And there's this sort of like black light effect in the room. I had a feeling it was doing something to me to cleanse me.
Right.
And 2 little gray guys were in there. And then after they were satisfied, they let me into the next room. And there was a bed in the room, a metal sort of slab of a bed. And now there's 3 gray guys. And I'm like, oh, they're going to want me to lay on this bed. And the way it's interesting that I knew that.
Right.
I don't know if it was just me thinking this is what happens when you get to a doctor's office, or if it was based upon something else I don't remember. But I'm like, okay, they're going to want me to lay on this bed. But what happened instead was they left the room. They went off to the left and went through a door and disappeared. And I thought, well, that's strange. Why did they leave me by myself?
Right.
Well, if they went through that left door, I'm going through this right door.
Right.
So I walked through the door, and it was this long sort of curving hallway. And I'm just walking, and then I come to kind of a dead end. It was similar to a closet, and there was some kind of metal contraption in it that I didn't understand. And I'm like, okay, dead end. So when I turned back, they were following me. They were
Right.
just like, okay, let's see where he goes.
See what he does.
And then they ushered me into a room that was close by in the same hallway. And in there, these little gray guys that were leading me around were about 3 feet tall.
Okay.
And they led me into this room with this being that was about 5 feet tall. And this being wanted me to sit in a chair that was in the room. And the chair looked worse than the bed. This looked like a dentist chair, and I didn't
Ugh.
want any part of it. But I acquiesced. I got into the chair, and when I got into the chair, I felt stuck to it. There were no straps or anything, but I felt magnetically attached to this chair. And the being got in my face with his big black eyes and said to me telepathically, "Be good and you'll get to see the color blue." I'm like, blue? Like, kids like suckers, stickers.
Sure.
You're going to show me the color blue? That's weird. So then I felt a sharp pain on my right arm, and I looked down and there's a slice on my arm. And as I'm watching it, it's healing up as I'm looking at it. And then I look back at the being whose face is in mine now, and its eyes changed color from black to a bright blue.
Oh, wow.
And it was really tranquilizing, mesmerizing. It's like a bright cerulean blue just washed over me. And then I was in my bed. It was the next morning. I looked down, and there's this new fresh scar on my arm.
Oh, no kidding.
And I went out to play with my friend from across the street. I was, again, 7 at the time. My friend from across the street was 6. And we're climbing trees in my backyard. And, again, this is the next afternoon. And this white mist rolls into the backyard. And we're like, what? You know, at first we thought it was a fire, like maybe
Right.
somebody's barbecue or something. But there was no smell. It was like a fog machine mist. And so I come out of the tree and I'm looking around, and it feels safe.
Right.
And then there's a little gray guy, one of the littler ones, and it says to me telepathically, "Oh, are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then it seemed satisfied, and then it kept walking, and the mist followed it. The mist surrounded it, and the mist just rolled into the next yard and the next yard.
And this
until it
is in the
disappeared.
middle of the day.
Yep. In the
Now,
middle
at
afternoon.
any time during that experience, and I know every psychologist out there would probably ask the same question, did you ever feel like you were sleeping? Did it ever feel like it was an actual dream? Or was it just so pronounced? I mean, you had the scar, the cut the next day, so obviously something's going on there. Did you ever have any, like, doubt that, man, that was a vivid dream?
No.
None. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to sidetrack
And
just
my,
a second.
And my friend, whom I still in contact with, still remembers the mist.
Remembers it.
He never saw the being, but he does remember the mist.
Wow, that's crazy. Go ahead.
Our friend Mark says he's wondering about your opinion on early civilization encounters. There are the carvings all over the world of deities that have extreme similarities, such as holding a bag in their hand. Do you think this would have occurred due to extraterrestrial encounters or human migration?
Yeah, wow, a lot there. Now, I'll tell you what I mostly traffic in is grassroots stuff. There, with 200 sightings a year coming into Michigan, with my own personal experiences, and that was part of the reason is I wrote a couple books about them. But I can bring that up again later.
Yeah, we'll talk about those.
But I do trust and respect a lot of the researchers that look back through history.
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't believe that Eric von Daniken might have hit the nail on the head with everything, and I did eventually get to meet the guy, which was super cool, but I read Chariots of the God when I was in elementary school.
Oh,
And it just felt natural to me.
Right.
And so, you know, a lot of these stories, you know, the giants, that bones of skeletons that have been found across the United States,
Yeah.
the anomalies being found down in Antarctica,
right.
the weird stuff on the moon. I mean, all of these things, I'm like, well, of course. I mean, for somebody that's had this kind of an experience, it just feels sure these things.
Absolutely. It's kind of normal almost. Yeah, of course it is.
If a civilization started 1,000, maybe a couple thousand years before us, and found our planet,
Yeah.
yeah, and they would come, they would mess with us.
Well, I've always thought too that, you know, we went from literally no technology and almost overnight to, you know, these pyramids all over the world, not just in Egypt, all over the
everywhere.
world. You know, mathematically, scientifically positioned for certain things up in the universe. And like he was talking about, the different things we're finding on, you know, drawings, whether it's artwork or cave drawings or whatever, that are very similar to technology we have today, you know, depicting these types of things. So I'm kind of on that fence of, you know, did we derive from aliens? You know, did they help us along when we were just basically dragging our knuckles on the floor to all of a sudden we've got all this advanced technology in a matter of no time?
Yeah, and I am very open to that concept, and then one has to ask then, if you are open to that, are you open to I mean, even going further down the rabbit hole, did they put us here?
Right. Yeah, I got a lot of, we won't go that deep into it, but I have a lot of thoughts on that particular subject. We got any more questions before we move on to his books again, or?
No.
Okay. All right, let's go into the books again. Your first book, when did you write it? Why did you write it?
Okay, so when I was...
Which one is
Raised in Two Worlds is the first one. And
that one?
so during my first few years in MUFON, I went and had a number of hypnotic regressions to sort of flesh out my encounters. And they were effective. Like, I'll give an example. When I had a regression back to that experience when I was 2, which I remembered vividly without hypnosis.
Right.
When I was in hypnosis, I remembered the crib differently than I had remembered it otherwise. Like in real life over the years, I'm like, how come there's this flat board at the end of my crib? I remember my crib had bars all the way around it. So when I told my mom about it, she was like, actually, your crib did have a flat board at the foot. And we still have the crib. It's up in the attic. And I looked, I'm like, oh my gosh. So what I remembered about the being was consistent.
Right.
But little details, because, I mean, what are you going to pay more attention to, this crazy being in the room or the architecture of your crib, I guess. But
Yeah.
even though I was probably in that crib for a couple of years, admittedly, but still.
Right.
So, but hypnosis corrected my memory.
Mm-hmm.
It kept the things that I remembered, but changed the things that I remembered incorrectly.
Okay.
And so I was on board with hypnosis at that point. So anyway, so I went through a bunch of regressions and took really good notes. And at one point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have a book's worth of stuff.
Right.
And I am actually typing your name and both of the book titles.
Oh, thank you.
Into the comments
Thank you.
for our viewers.
So, yep, so thank you. So when I these two books basically are one long narrative, and I realized there was a point in my life and my relationship with these beings that things changed sort of dramatically, and that there was a natural point to chop the book in half.
Okay.
And that was the first sort of 20 years of my life, and that's why I call it Raised in Two Worlds.
Okay.
And then Two Worlds Collide, the next book is from my roughly age 21 to 25, and that's how my real life and their guidance of where they wanted me to go in life became apparent.
Gotcha.
And that's when people ask experiencers to share their story, abductees, contactees, what have you. Well, if you hear just a single account or a
Right.
couple accounts, a handful of accounts, it doesn't do it justice. Really, what you need to hear is an entire story arc of several encounters over a long stretch of time
Right.
to see a pattern that they're really interested in our lives.
Right.
And a lot of people will ask questions like, is there a galactic civilization, a galactic council? What planet are they from, and things like that. And really, I gotta say, I don't know if there is a galactic council, and if they're not collecting taxes from me, I'm not, and they're not in my life. Okay,
Right,
so
yeah, so
maybe,
be it.
maybe so be it. Maybe not. There's something like that. But I don't think you need to necessarily try to bring people into their sphere.
Right.
I think it's as interesting how bizarrely interested they are in our mundane lives.
Sure. Now, where can somebody get these books?
They're at all the big book places like Amazon
Okay.
or Barnes & Noble,
Okay.
Walmart.
All right. So get on your Amazons, get out to Barnes and Noble, and you do quite a few conventions.
Yep. Yes, I do.
Um,
Yeah, sure.
So, you can catch them at the convention. Speaking of, what do you got coming up planned? Where are you going to be? What things you're going to be doing up?
I do a lot of library talks around the state, but really, I'm trying to think of when my next one is. I don't think it's for another month or so, but what I am doing next month, and just actually a few weeks, is the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference in Arkansas.
Oh,
I'm a presenter there.
okay.
And that's, I think it's their 36th consecutive year doing the conference. I think they might have taken a year off for COVID, maybe.
Right.
But in any case, it's been running for about three dozen years.
Now-
And
Go ahead.
and so I'm very honored to be at that one.
Oh,
'cause
absolutely.
It's a very prestigious, respected event.
Well, we do have viewers from Arkansas. So if you guys are on or you see the replay of this, he'll be in your state coming soon. So check that out. We do have, what time is it?
7:46.
7:40. So we got a little bit of time. I did want to touch a little bit on what, like, the things that everybody knows about, I guess. Area 51. Lots of controversy there. You got the camo dudes. You got all sorts of radars and cameras out there. What do you suppose is going on out there, in your opinion?
Okay, so I do think that it is correct. An easy win is to say they're doing something out there they don't want people to know
Right.
about.
Yeah.
But to what degree, I do think that they are testing novel aircraft they prefer people not know about.
Yeah.
But to the extent, are they reverse engineering UFOs? Now, you hear a lot of evidence that supports that, including from like Bob Lazar. I don't know if you know, he lives in Michigan.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were going to talk about him.
But so the one thing that really got me is my dad, one time I was watching something UFO related on TV. I don't remember what it was. And love my dad, he was great, but he didn't seem to follow his kids' hobbies very well.
Right.
So I don't think he knew just how deep I was into UFOs.
Yeah.
So there's this UFO thing on TV. It's some kind, it might have been In Search of, for all I know. I don't remember.
Okay.
So he comes up and he's like, I worked with a guy that said that he went to this place outside Las Vegas and he saw them reverse engineering UFOs. It was a crazy thing. He's like, I don't know why he told me that. He never talked about UFOs before or after, but one day he told me, he's like, yeah, there was these silver discs out at this military base outside Las Vegas, and he saw them
Oh, my
hovering. And I'm like,
So I don't know if this correlates with anything, but Josh said Trump dropped the truth. I don't know if that means something.
I don't know, did Trump, trying to think if he ever disclosed anything that he wasn't supposed to. I don't recall, but doesn't mean he didn't. I just don't know about it.
I tend to think he demurs on the topic like most politicians.
Right. Okay. We'll have to look into it, find out what he said, what he was referring to.
Right?
So, yeah, Area 51. That's very interesting that he just dropped that bomb on you. Oh, by the way, I got this guy I know that worked out there. That's kind of been my thought as well. Is that I think they're very, very secretive. Military aircraft, drones that obviously they don't want people to see.
Some people will even go so far as to say that they don't think that the military is testing top secret aircraft, which is kind of really silly, going really far. And
Yeah.
the example I always like to say is that the stealth helicopter didn't exist until one crashed in Pakistan and they had to admit it existed.
Right. Yeah. No, I believe 100%. They're testing top secret, stealth, cloaking, all that stuff. Where they're getting that technology, that's where I get intrigued. Where are they coming up with that? Is it just brainiac scientists? Oh, sorry. My arms are going again. She's about to hit me. Brainiac scientists that are coming up with this, or are they reverse engineering, this UFO or UAP technology?
Well, David,
I don't know what I'd like to believe. I don't know.
I don't know if you're familiar with David Grush and his claims. So he was somebody that had some top secret clearance, who very recently, within the last year, came out and said that we have not only discs, but bodies within the possession of the U.S. military.
Right.
And he was featured in an open congressional hearing raised his hand, under threat of perjury,
Right.
that we have UFOs and bodies, and he told the congressional interviewers that he's like, yeah, I can give you a list of the people, where the bodies are, where the craft are, who's working on them, as
Right.
well as the corporations that have been given, that have received some of this technology
Yeah.
in an effort to see what they can do with it.
See what they can do with it.
And that investigation is currently going on.
Isn't it? Well, we had, and I don't recall the date. I was actually just watching a show on it the other day. The hearings in Washington where they had all these different foreign pilots, military and commercial, different government officials from other countries and here that came together in Washington and had a conference and spoke about their experiences and what they'd like to see done. Are you familiar with that at all, or?
Yeah, that sounds like that's one of Stephen Greer's press club
Yeah,
releases
yeah,
that
yeah, I
he
think it
would
was,
have.
yep,
And
yep.
yeah, some really big important names. I remember John Podesta was the one
Yes.
that really impressed me.
Yes.
I mean, here's somebody that's working in the White House
Right.
saying that we should release what we know about UFOs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's certainly interesting stuff. People say, well, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? It's out there. You just got to go. You got to look for it. You got to, you got to open your mind up a little bit. Some people just are so closed off that they refuse to believe it. I don't know if because they're afraid of it or they just refuse to believe it. We have the same thing in our paranormal museum. We have people go in there. They love the presentation that we do, but they refuse to believe that it's paranormal or haunted. Well, it's because you're closed off. You refuse to believe it. And I think that goes true for UFOs, the whole phenomenon with that.
A lot. I often think about, there was a physicist in the 1800s, Sir William Crookes. He was knighted because of his contribution to physics, and he not only was a great scientist, he was also really into the paranormal. He would attend seances and investigated spirit phenomena.
Right.
And the other well-known, respected scientists at the time kept saying, "Why are you why are you embarrassing the field by going
Yeah.
into this?" And I remember this one great exchange that he claims that occurred, where one scientist said to him, he's like, "You're exploring all these things that aren't even possible."
Right.
And his response was, "I never said it was possible. I only said it was true."
Right. Perfect line.
Right. So Mark says 51 is a military test site 100% as per where they're getting it is a conundrum, but realize they are probably 50 years ahead of what we know about.
Yeah, they're always ahead.
Mark says England had done a huge research project on UFOs, and then Ben says, if I'm reading this correct, what's AI take on UFO?
Artificial intelligence. Is that what he's talking about? AI?
That's what I'm assuming. He's got it in
Yeah.
caps.
I mean,
So-
again, AI, where's that technology coming from? Is it coming from up there, or is it just our brainiac scientists?
So what I have to say when he mentions that thing about being 50 years ahead,
Yeah.
so assuming, and there's a lot of interesting controversy about this, assuming we went to the moon in 1969,
Right.
and that was more than 50 years ago, and all that we've got to show for it ever since landing on the moon was like a go-kart on Mars, and basically this share time space station in
Right.
low orbit, and a few flights of the space shuttle.
Yeah.
I mean, in 50 years, that's how far we got?
Yeah.
Don't
in the
they
space
have
program?
something out that I was just looking at that is literally like going way out there somewhere?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah,
you
they
know,
got probes going
yeah,
out there.
the Voyagers,
Yeah.
So, but if you look at where computers were in the 60s,
Yeah.
I mean, these giant honking things that would fill an
Oh my
entire
God.
room, and those giant things that would fill a room had less processing power than my watch.
Exactly.
If that's the case, if that is the arc with technology, where is that reflected in the space program?
Yeah. Are they just hoarding it? Are they hiding it? Maybe there's I'm guessing there's a
Maybe
lot
the
more.
aliens didn't give it to them because they don't want you out there.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
You can have a smartwatch. We're not giving you the keys to this thing.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
The
You
universe,
don't get to come visit me.
the universe does not want our kind up there. They know what we've done to screw this planet up. They don't want it out there. So they're just probably sitting all there, and like you
Right.
said earlier, their leadership groups and all this, they're looking down. Nope, give them a little bit of this and that, but they ain't coming all the way up here. We are running out of time.
We are.
What do we got coming up, Miss Cindy?
Oh, why'd you have to ask a loaded question?
Because I will screw up the dates.
Me too. So this is why I'm going into the calendar. I
Okay.
gotta get where are we?
Well, our
Right.
next show in 2
Yeah.
weeks, I believe.
On the 4th
Okay, is that
of
Demonicos?
April. That is Demonicos.
Okay, Demonicos Productions, our tarot readers, psychics, and all that will be here on the show. What else we got?
Very interesting. April 16th is a very fun one that you don't want to miss with, and that's not our regular night. It is a Tuesday. We will have Cynical Twitch and Sin Mile in the house.
Right in the studio, folks.
She is coming all the way from Arkansas.
Arkansas.
So she's going to be coming and visiting with us. And then that Thursday, that same Thursday, so you get
Yes.
us twice.
2 shows that week.
2 shows. We will have Joel and April from Halfway to Halloween.
Yes, so
Yes.
we have Halfway to Halloween is coming up. We will be broadcasting live from
Throughout
that
the
show.
day.
But prior to that, they will be on our show here promoting the event. But
April 18th.
April 18th?
Yep.
Okay. And then May 11th?
May 11th is
May
the
11th
show,
is the
yes.
actual show where we'll be set up like we did last year, running our broadcast throughout the day. We'll also have our shop, Voodoos. We'll have a booth there as well for that. I don't think we need to go any further outside of that because
No.
people aren't going to remember.
They will not, but it's
So-
on our pages.
It's on the pages. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming out.
thank
I
you.
know you had a bit of a drive to get up here. We certainly appreciate it. Actually, we got a parting gift for you over here before you go. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. So I'm sure we'll run into each other again. We kind of hit the same conventions. So we'll definitely see you soon.
Right on.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we will see you in a couple weeks, I guess.
And as always, keep it real.